Okay, I guess we'll get started. Good afternoon. This is an overview of the Starry Stonewort Collaborative, Finger Lakes Institute. My name is David Carr. Please chime in if you can't hear me or some other technical error, but I think we're all set here. So quick backgrounds. I said my name is David Carr. I'm the Starry Stonewort project manager. There's my email address. You can jot it down. It'll be at the end as well if you ever need to get a hold of me or want to get a hold of me, and we can discuss things. I've been with this program for, I don't know, 7-ish months. I started at the end of July 2018. My background is actually in kind of technical geospatial technologies, but I've done a fair amount of environmental program management as well, not to mention the geospatial, mostly for environmental work as well. I am at the Finger Lakes Institute at Hobart William Smith Colleges in Geneva, New York. I'll show you a map in a minute where that is. The Finger Lakes Institute, we promote environmental research and education. We for the Finger Lakes region and beyond, and we have these program areas we focused on and try and promote sound environmental principles and techniques in these program areas. We work with people, organizations from local to regional to state and local government as well. And housed within or hosted by the Finger Lakes Institute is the Finger Lakes Partnership for Regional Invasive Species Management. It's a mouthful, or PRISM. There are 8 prisms across New York State. As the name would imply, the goal is to reduce and understand the spread and impact of invasive species, and it's done through coordinated efforts and partners. And that partnership part's huge. We work with as many partners as we can. All the prisms across the state do. It's a big part of what we do, and so Finger Lakes is based here. So real quick, and this is a plug for the region because it's a beautiful region, but there's our little spot. This is where we are. This is generally the general Finger Lakes region. If you've never been out here, the Finger Lakes are clearly long, skinny lakes. Some of them are quite large. Seneca Lake here, we're on right up here in the northwest corners, something like 38 miles long. It's very deep. It's the deepest one by far. It's over 600 feet deep at this point. This is Cayuga Lake. Cornell University is right down here, if you know Cornell, Syracuse, Rochester. This is the Finger Lakes region, or the Finger Lakes watershed is actually part of the Great Lakes Basin. This green line is the Lake Ontario watershed basin, or watershed. Here's Great Lake Ontario. If we zoom out a little bit, or a lot, here we are over here still. So we're in the eastern part of the Great Lakes Basin, much bigger area. We are very excited about this project because we get to work with our own region here that we're so used to, but now we're expanding way out and looking at the entire basin as part of this project. So we're talking about Starry Stonewort. Nidolopsis obtusa, and I'm going to give a very, very brief overview of what it is. This is not meant to be a full description of its ecology or biology. We have fact sheets on our website, and many of the states I've talked with already have fact sheets available. There's other folks out there that know more about this than I do as far as from that aspect. But I did want, if there's people new here to Starry Stonewort, I want to just give a real quick background about what it is. It's an aquatic macroalgae. If you look at it in the field or in a specimen, it looks a lot like a vascular plant, but it's not. It's an algae. It gets many of its nutrients through the cell walls. It's got little, I guess they're called rhizomes that help attach it to the sediment, but they're not really roots. They're root-like, but they're not roots. Its native lands are from Eurasia, Europe and Asia. There's quite a bit of work and papers I've read about where it is in Europe, which is interesting. It's in Northern Europe, Switzerland, Germany, Great Britain. Interestingly, it's considered endangered in most of those places. In fact, some places are trying to protect it. Excuse me. because some things I've read, they feel it's good for water clarity and things, and we'll see about that. But it's just an interesting situation. It's been here. I guess the most recent, or the original finding of it was 1978 back in the St. Lawrence River, and it's typically probably got there through the dumping of the bilge waters and from giant cargo ships and stuff going across the ocean. Like many invasive species, that's how they get here, unfortunately. It has since spread throughout much of the Great Lakes Basin. Here's just some quick pictures. Here it is on the left, a little nickel there for scale. As I said, it looks like a vascular plant, but it really isn't. You can see here these star-shaped structures called bulbils, which are the, I believe it's called asexual reproductive structures. It kind of gets its name because they're star-shaped. And then over here is just a great picture of a billowing pillow or mat of it underwater. It really, like many unfortunate invasives, it takes right over in this country. This is just a quick map of the extent as maintained on the database of the USGS non-indigenous aquatic species data set online. I downloaded this, and I don't know if you can see the date there. I'm back in February 26th. So you can see where it's came in this way and it's spread through here. Here's our little flag where we are again, and then it's spread all the way across here. I would guarantee, without having anything to back it up, there's way more spots of this out there that have either been identified but not recorded to this data set, or just haven't been found yet. Impacts. The impacts are very much like many invasive species. They have rapid, very aggressive growth. Over here, there's another shot we took from a kayak, just looking through the water. There's just huge pillows of this stuff. There's a couple of lily pads trying to hang in there over here, and if you can see it there, there's a little bit of a hole that maybe they haven't quite gone into too far yet. There's potential harm to environmental systems. A lot of this is still under scrutiny and study, but there's evidence that fish spawning areas are affected, potentially water quality issues, and of course replacing native species or pushing them out. As you see, there's not much here. This is solid Starry Stonewort, and this rake toss we did lots of these and got huge amounts of just nearly 100% Starry Stonewort. Human impacts, this inhibits the use of waterways. Nobody wants to swim in this or drag a boat through it necessarily. Fishing, of course, aside from affecting spawning of some species, nobody wants to drag the lure through that. It's not easy to do. And then there's, like any place all the way across the Great Lakes Basin, we're talking about lakes, and the potential economic impact of Starry Stonewort and other aquatic invasive species is significant. So saying all that, these are very general things I've mentioned, and at the moment, it's surprising how little we don't know about Starry Stonewort. It's been here since the 70s, and in many areas, it's just kind of flown under the radar. Now, I know there are areas like Michigan, Southeast Michigan, Wisconsin, someplace in Minnesota where it's huge, and they've been studying it for at least a decade in a lot of detail. So I'm not saying this stuff is alleged, but there's a lot more things we need to know about it. And there's a lot of areas that, again, it's been here a while, but we haven't studied it enough. So there's a lot we still need to learn about this invasive species. So what are we doing about it? Well, Finger Lakes Institute, we've started this, as you know, the Starry Stonewort Collaborative for the Great Lakes Basin. We are funded, it's a 2-year grant program. We're funded through the Environmental Protection Agency, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. The basic overall goal, I guess you could call it, of the program, we want to enhance and elevate or make better the capacity of everybody from the experts down to the local stakeholders and citizen scientists know how to address Starry Stonewort. We're going to do it through 3 main areas: ecology, outreach, and control. This is not a detailed scientific study. The ecology, as it says there, we want to get general knowledge out there. You know, fact sheets, we have any new information we can glean to make new fact sheets, get this stuff out there so everybody understands and knows what we're dealing with at a general level. Outreach, of course, is critical. That's for, and again, we want to do it at all levels, but we're really focused ultimately on community level groups, citizen scientists, to help us with this project, and of course, control. We all want to control invasive species, and Starry Stonewort's in the same boat. We want to be able to figure out, control it, contain it, reduce its growth, and all those things. And there's a number of best management practices out there, but we want to get them out there, refine existing best management practices, and maybe even come up with our own new ones at the end of the project. And of course, as the name would imply, and there are several other invasive species collaborative. We need to do the collaborative approach, and there's just too much out there, too much area to cover. But at the same time, so we need people to help with that. But at the same time, there's so much knowledge and experience and people learning things every season that we need to glean all that and bring it together. So I've got a little diagram I put together here about how we've structured this. On the bottom is the Finger Lakes Institute. That's us. We're managing the project. If it was a team of people, we'd be the point person, keeping things moving, trying to keep focused and keep everything running. We've invited 6 to 8 people, and we're calling the expert panel to work with us. And these folks have got extensive experience, if not in one of or part of or all 3 of ecology outreach and control of this. Very experienced folks, and we've actually asked them to help us guide the program. So when I have a thing, I'm going to try and do this next, and they tell me, no, that's crazy, you don't want to do that, or how about trying this direction or whatever it is. That's what these folks are here for, to help us out. They've been very helpful so far already. We really appreciate the time. The next level, we've got what we're calling our collaborators. And we've got quite a few more of these. These are 20 to 23 collaborators now across the region. And they too have agreed to help us out. And here we are looking for their experience, but we're also looking for their help in the outreach to get down to the local level. A lot of these folks work at the state level, but they're all the way across the basin and back. And we're really looking for their help to help establish relationships with these organizations, help with outreach, training, and so on. And then that's the final goal as citizen scientists. And we really want to have just as many as these folks we can. If they're new to it, that's great. We'll train people. If they have existing invasive species programs, and if they have room to add identifying and learning about Starry Stonewort, that's great too. Whatever it takes, but that's the goal. We really want to get all kinds of people at the local level helping us out. Real quick, another map. Just if you see the little stars, that's most of the expert panelists and collaborators, where they're located. We're going to maybe get a few more collaborators, a couple more expert panelists. If anybody out there listening from Canada, we could use a couple more collaborators up Canada for sure. I want to stress again too about this project. This isn't this. Science is not the big focus of this project. We're trying to get folks just learning about ecology, how to control it, what it is, how we can report where Starry Stonewort is. We hope in the future to have scientific projects that look at environmental features, water chemistry, nutrient uploads, all those kinds of things that we could do pilots, whatever. Hopefully what we accomplish in this project will help that work take off. So what are we doing? Now we're down kind of to the objective level. There's an overarching objective, as I've just said, is community level. We want to get training and education is critical. And out of that, we get the identification and reporting component of it. We really want people to understand what they're working with, what they're seeing, and understand it. And I think there's a lot of power there, even if it's not at a highly scientific level. They really identify it, Starry Stonewort, find where it is, log where it is, report it. I'll get to that in a minute. And then just the general education about all aquatic invasive species. So a few of the tasks to get there, as I've said, we want to review and distribute best management practices, maybe even develop our own if we get some new thinking and people figure something out. We want to develop outreach kits, and these aren't, we haven't done this yet, this is a short list of some of the things we may include. That would be training information, BMPs again, identification materials, some of these fact sheets, maybe some things, hand lenses and things that help identify stuff in the field, what we're looking at. And Survey 123 application. And what this is, if you're not familiar with it, Survey 123 is a module of the vast ArcGIS suite of tools. So it's GIS and geospatial related. And we've had good luck with it here in-house for hydrilla surveys and things. So we would develop some forms that people can download onto their phones or tablets for free. And then when they go out in the field, they can literally click a bunch of boxes, fill in very basic information on the where it is on a map, basic descriptive information all in this form, again on a phone or tablet. Then when they get back to either a cell signal or wireless signal, automatically upload to a database in the cloud, so to speak, that we can start looking at and see what we have. We're pretty excited about that because it worked really well. It has worked very well for us here on some other projects. Of course, we'll develop some paper forms and Google Forms as needed as well. If somebody's not comfortable, they don't want to get into the application. So, because we want to record that information. Now, that's out in the field in reporting. We want to identify the infestations. That's pretty critical. And again, with the forms or the Survey 123 application, this stuff will be reported back to the Finger Lakes Institute. And the Finger Lakes Institute, we will look at it and curate it, so to speak, look for discrepancies or weird outliers or that kind of stuff, just to clean it up. And then ultimately, we want to upload it to the USGS non-indigenous aquatic species data set. And then here in New York State, IMAP invasives. I believe Pennsylvania's using it too. Pennsylvania's a little tiny piece in the Great Lakes Basin, but we're going to do that here as well. And so that's kind of the final resting place of that kind of data. But one of the exciting things that Survey 123 also does is if we've done our homework right and developed it properly, when you come back in from the field, you have a good cell connection, wireless connection, that data will be uploaded to a little map on a website where you can see within minutes or hours at worst, or minutes, where you've been, what you identified. So it's automatically right there. And from there, we will weed that out. Again, if there's outliers or something odd comes up, we'll fix it. But it's just kind of neat to come in from your work outside and see it clearly on a map. And of course, we want to keep things going. We haven't done anybody a service if we run this project for a couple of years and just stop. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it going. So we're looking to identify additional funding. Aside from keeping this going, I would really like to see, as I said, some scientific work done too beyond this, maybe building on what we found, and then get into the ecology and the biology and the, as I said, environmental systems and all that, and really get a handle on what's going on here. And the website, where we are going to develop a website specifically for Starry Stonewort information for the project. And I want to talk about that specifically here for a minute. The website, like for any project, will be the face of the collaborative. I mean, it's the front page, if you will, of what we're doing. We'll have pretty basic information, but important, what it is, why we're doing it, who's doing it, et cetera. So maybe some information about the Great Lakes Basin, because it is a vast area. And if somebody's new coming into this, they might not realize how big an area it really is. I'm guilty of this, kind of get focused in our little local spot. It's nice to see the bigger picture. Have the basic information available, fact sheets again, and pictures and photographs of the Starry Stonewort. Again, those mapped locations coming off of Survey 123, we'll have those right up front for people to see. And a forum. I would really like to get a forum up and running. If you've ever used a forum for software or other things, I know there's automotive forums, people that fix their own cars. You get up there and you get online and you log in, and then you can share information and thoughts and ideas and pictures and so on, and get the flow of information really going. The other part of the website, which I'm very excited about, is we want to build a library. The library, as we see it, would basically have anything Starry Stonewort related available for anybody to use. So we're talking about existing reports, academic papers, training information and materials, best management practices, identification materials, media. We want to put, like, this webinar will be up there with this PowerPoint. I know there's another, as another example, there's a presentation coming up in, or not a little mini conference, one-day conference in Michigan next week. Michigan Waterfront Alliance is having a Starry Stonewort conference. And although we're not directly involved in them doing that, I've already talked to them, and they're going to give us the PowerPoints and proceedings, and that's a perfect thing to go up on the website. So then another state or region can see what Michigan's doing, see what whoever's doing, and everybody can consolidate all this information so we get a better handle on what's happening out there. We really want to get this information from everywhere, all across the basin. And then, you know, I can't say that we're going to lock it down to the basin. This is a website, so it's open to the world, but we're going to focus on the Great Lakes Basin. But again, it's similar to the data. We will get the information from you folks, and then we will post it up on the website. And we'll do that to just make sure, you know, look at consistency, duplication, other issues, just so we know it's the best best data we can get. And we're going to look to the expert panelists and collaborators to help with that, just to keep really nice, clean data. And then once it's up there, it's free to everybody to use, and it's the best we can get a hold of. And of course, social media. We're going to put up probably Facebook first, but then we'll see where we'll go from there. And that way we'll get the message out even better through, you know, practically everybody uses social media, but you exchange information, thoughts, ideas, and so on, and events. So where are we at this point? This is just a quick short list of kind of where we are. Again, I've mentioned the collaborators and expert panel several times, but I'm going to thank them again for helping us out. We've got 22, 23 collaborators, 6 to 8 expert panelists. We probably, as I said, maybe looking for a few more of each. They've been very helpful. We've had regular calls with the expert panel. We've had 3, I think, 3 or 4 calls. We're doing those monthly until summer because that's when everybody gets busy and everybody's out in the field. So we'll still be in communication, of course, via email and calls as necessary. But they've been very helpful in helping us frame this project. Our outreach to date has been just a couple of email flyers, which you've probably seen, or many of you have seen. Maybe that's how you heard about this webinar. But they've been successful. We've, you know, if you remember, there's a little submit button at the bottom. And we've gotten over 130 people that have signed up. I think we're at 135 now that want to be involved and at least stay in contact with what's going on. And then we've been pushing this out over existing listservs as well. So we're reaching, I don't know how many people on the listservs, but we're going to be reaching quite a few people. Whether or not, you know, they participate, it's up to them, but we're trying to take advantage of all these technologies to really get the information out there about what we're doing and why. The website, I know this is a check mark up in the corner. This isn't really done, but we're very close to it starting. So that's why I said this is a status. We're in the final stages of just ironing out a contract with a web developer who's going to do great work for us. I hope. We're pretty excited about that. So I'm hoping the website will be up and running early in the summer. Webinars, this is the first for the project. We're hoping to do 6 a year, We've got another one scheduled in June already. which is going to be an overview of our two projects that are sister projects in Minnesota and Wisconsin about the training program they have in August. That's been very successful over the last 2 or 3 summers. So I can give us an overview on that. And then for this grant, we really want to try and meet in person with the expert panel a few times over the life of the grant. And of course, touching base in person with any of the collaborators is a plus as well. But at this point, we've got a meeting roughly planned for a Wisconsin partnership, I can't what it's called. But it's in April. We're going to meet up, and at least 3 or 4 of the panelists are going to be there, and we're going to conference call in the other ones. So we're almost done here, folks. I told you this is going to be an overview. This last slide is my hit list, if you will. It's the next few things I really want to focus on and move on. I want to engage the collaborators more. And some of you are on this call, I hope. I've exchanged emails. I've spoken to a few of you, but it's time to start really getting into the works here and working on getting some outreach stuff done. So we need your help. In that regard, we are going to be working on developing training tools and methods. We have some really talented people in-house here. I'm jumping down to this one, but we have some very talented education and outreach people here in-house, and we're going to really look at what we can come up with ourselves and talk to some of our partners. As I said, everything we do here is partner-oriented, and see if we can come up with some training tools and sessions and things. The Wisconsin-Minnesota thing, again, is not in August. They do 2 sister programs that happen at the same day, and they're, again, in June, there's going to be a webinar about that, overview of that. And we're hoping, we're going to support them however we can. We're hoping that people will tune in and say, hey, that looks really good. We can use something like that in our area. And so we can kind of take their lead or copy it or whatever you want to call it, and see if we can help promote it in some other areas and put that to use. Website, social media functional. I just said that hopefully it's up in summer, early summer. What I really want to do as soon as it's up and running, the website in particular, is to start populating that library, have that survey 1, 2, 3 information running on the front end. Just have it really not just kind of there, but really fully functional as quick as possible. I expect social media to be up much sooner than that, because that's not that difficult to do. So stay tuned for all this stuff. I will be sending out email flyers and so on, announcing when we get things going. And then this is something we just started talking about in the office. We're thinking about having putting together a pilot project for identification and reporting Starry Stonewort. And remembering, though, I don't want to say we're not forgetting things like control. We want to make sure we're still getting information about the best management practices and ecology, of course, because that's all kind of identification, but understanding how this thing grows and so on. And maybe we can start getting folks on the ground over a couple seasons to start seeing if the beds have expanded or not and things like that. So the idea of the pilot would be a lot of what I've already talked about. We put together a kit of information and tools that they can use in the field, get forms going together on survey 1, 2, 3. We'll see the web results. When we get the data ourselves and our upload to USGS, NAS, and IMAP invasive, see how it goes, run through it. So there's the pilot. And we're thinking about, as kind of a control, you have our own people take it out into in the field here and to some Starry Stonewort beds they're aware of already, and just kind of run through it and see how it goes. And we'll go through the whole process and see if we need to refine or tweak things or take things out, put things in. And then stage 2 would probably be still in our region with one of our partners, but give it to them to do on a different lake and where they are. So they have really no idea what it is as far as the pilot program, see how it goes. Again, iron the kinks out. And then finally, then we'd get it out to one or more places out somewhere out in the Great Lakes Basin and across there and see how it goes. I would expect by then we'd have most of the kinks out, but you never know. And we would love to have some folks pick a state, you know, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, wherever, actually trying the pilot and doing it. And then my ultimate goal for this year is actually have actively a flow of information coming back. So either building off the pilot or some folks that are ready to go, just get some real good identification and things happening this summer reporting up the chain to us. So that's a real quick, brief overview. I would encourage some questions to keep. We got quite a few people on here. It might be easiest. I think we've got almost 40 people on. If you use the chat box and send us some questions, I'm willing to try and answer them as best I can. And if there's some questions I can't answer, I might ask. I know there's at least a couple of the expert panel are on. I might ask them to chime in if I can't handle a question. No questions at all. That's either really good news or really bad news for the presenter. Oh. Okay, I think you can all see it. Oh, here they come. Now they're pouring in. All right, good. And I'll read the question if you can't see it. Can you quickly touch on the role of the expert panel and collaborators? The expert panelists, they are as described, they're pretty much experts in the field we chose. They are helping us literally frame the project and how to guide us through the project and move forward. They've got a tremendous amount of knowledge in all levels. Some of them are more stronger, or we asked them to pick ecology, outreach, or control. And they did that, but a lot of them said, if that doesn't work, I can do virtually all the other ones too. So we've got a real strong base there to help us move through this project. The collaborators, we're looking also for, you know, general knowledge and information, but also as a means or a conduit to get down to the local level of leisure. It's a big region, and we're all the way over here in the far eastern part of it, and we want to be able to get to you know, the outreach down to the local level, citizen science as best we can, and I think the collaborators can help with that. Do we have mitigation techniques available now on website? Not yet. Because the website isn't even built yet. That's about all I can tell you. We're not there yet. There's stuff out there on other websites, I think. I don't know if I know, Paul, you're on the call from our expert panel. I don't know if you can chime in on that one.
I guess I can say in Wisconsin, we've got different approaches that we've taken and we're evaluating them, but we don't have a one-size-fits-all solution to Starry Stonewort or anything, so we wouldn't have a whole lot to share yet.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered your question. You know, you kind of touched on it. You know, that's why what we're doing with this project. You know, there's so much we don't know about this yet, and we're also trying to be a repository, if you will, for all this information, because this stuff's probably out there, but we need to gather it and put it up on our website when it's done. The next one we got here, it says, have you or will you reach out to experts from Starry Stonewort home range that could tell you what is leading to the endangered status might be used to hamper its expansion here? We may do that. I know there's some of our expert panelists were co-authors on a paper with a woman from France or Switzerland, I believe. And we may try and get in touch with her. I know there's been some studies as well. Potential is calcium carbonate. There's some thought that their systems in Northern Europe, the lakes are very low in calcium carbonate. Now here, it seems to be much more. I can't speak to that directly. I'm not at that level of science, but we will be doing that. We've already looked at some papers, and I think we'll be trying to reach out to some of those folks. Do we have a timeline for implementation of both kit distribution and Survey 123? As soon as possible probably isn't what you're looking for. I don't have a definite timeline, but you know, it's already March. I don't know. Here it's definitely still wintertime, but I would hope in another month or so we can get stuff together preliminarily and start getting stuff out. I hope this is answering people's questions. Wow, this is a great question. I might need one of my expert panelists to answer this one. It says, as an educator, I want to avoid treating the species as merely an invader. Stonewort, as is the case with other invasives, is responsible for changing environmental conditions. Can you provide some overall perspective on how to address stonewort in that context? I will lead off by saying we're still learning what effects it has. As you know, when you take the extreme of in Northern Europe, it's endangered, and here it's just growing like wildfire. It's a little bit hard to get a handle on what it's doing, other than clearly you go out in a kayak or anything, you see it's just completely taken over areas, which means you're pushing out your native species. It's pretty clear. I don't know the spawning habits of most fish, but if it's that thick with stuff, it may be impeding, excuse me, the spawning habits of fish and things. These are the kinds of questions that I really can't answer myself. I don't know if Paul or somebody else from the panel wants to take a shot at that one.
Well, I guess I would say that like any other invasive, it takes advantage of changing conditions and disturbance. We know that in some cases, starry stonewort, like other invasives, tends to be extremely abundant in some situations and less so in others. And we don't understand why at this point. Starry's also been around for several decades and either wasn't being noticed or wasn't causing many problems for quite some time. And then in the last 15 years or so, it started to pop up in a lot more locations. And again, that could be because it went overlooked all that time before that, or it started actually becoming more of an issue. So we don't know if that's just a response to environmental change. There's a lot of questions, like David said, that are unanswered still at this point.
Thank you, Paul. They got better. The person answering the question was basically pointing out I wasn't answering the question properly. You did. They were looking about how is it responding to changing conditions, not what it's responsible for. And I think you nailed that down better than I could. We're going to move along. There's more questions. There's a question from Lake Simcoe in Canada. Outstanding. I wonder if, do we meet? Anyway, I'm not naming people's names. I didn't know if anyone wants to be called out here. I'm in Lake Simcoe in Canada. We found starry stonewort in 2009. It's been spreading across the lake, is now the dominant shallow water species in several areas. We're looking for mitigation and management strategies for starry stonewort. We'd be happy to partner with a pilot project. Outstanding. Survey 123 in any other way we can help out. I also have to add our red dot to your USGS map. Outstanding. Thank you very much. If you could either contact me by my email and send me your, so make sure we can contact. I recognize your name, so I think we've been in contact, but send me your email either in the chat box here or send it to me. My email address is right there, dcarr@hws.edu. That would be great. Thank you very much. We'd love to work with you. Okay, have we answered all your questions best we can? If you'd like to unmute and make some comments verbally, you can. This made things easier this way though, to go through the questions one time in the chat. But if you'd like to say a few words, make some comments, please feel free. We're not trying to keep people from talking. It's just keeping things organized here. We do have some of the expert panel here, as Paul Skowinski has already helped out, and I think there's some others on as well, if you've got some other specific questions. Okay, well, we've been about 45 minutes. I know somebody at the beginning was mentioning they had to go to a meeting, so hopefully we made your timeline. Any other questions real quick before we end? If not, feel free to contact me and I'll get back to you. And hopefully we're pretty excited about this project. We appreciate all you coming on and listening and sending your information in. I mean, your thoughts and ideas. And you're all very welcome. We're giving you thanks here. That means a lot. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll be in touch. Well, it must be this program does everything. Why is